Well, here we are on a rare Saturday morning. And if you think we've got this all figured out, you got another thought coming. We have this, we have this coastal storm, and just as we thought it was confusing enough, it gets more confusing. So let's see how we can take this apart today on this special Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And you can support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. Use that link at the top of the chat board to get you to Amazon. If you do your Amazon shopping, you get your stuff. Amazon throws us back a little bit of coin for sending you there. It doesn't cost you 1 extra cent out of your own pocket, and it keeps these live podcasts that we do commercial free. So we appreciate very much those of you who have done this and supported us by shopping on Amazon. Tempest by Weatherflow. If you need a weather station, this is the perfect one because you can install it just about anywhere, and it runs right off your mobile device. You'll be part of the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link for this is on the descriptor to this podcast, and Joe Rayo knows that secret coupon code.
It's so secret that I almost ran over you to tell you. Autumn 2025.
And what happens if they use that secret coupon code, Mr. Rayo?
I'm going to come over and do your laundry. No, 10% off. 10% off anything that Tempest sells.
Yes. Kenneth has already hit the tip jar, Joe. So, thank you, Kenneth, very, very much for starting the show off with some coin in the tip jar. Okay, so I went to bed last night thinking, all right, I guess this doesn't, this just shouldn't be any big deal. And I wake up this morning and I look at the GFS, and then I look at the European, and then I looked at the European at 6Z, which is even more aggressive than the 0Z. And I can't remember a time where, and then I started pulling up all these other models. They're all different. I mean, they are all different in terms of how they look. And then, now it looks like the upper low is coming down and it's dropping straight south into Northern Virginia, at least according to the World of the European, and it generates that secondary coastal low, and that one becomes the problem. The southern low is not even an issue. That shoots up the initial rain. It's that secondary low. But I keep looking around to get at least to try to get some semblance of consistency here, and I don't see it. I don't see the consistency. And frankly, it makes it really difficult to try to figure out what exactly is going to happen.
I'll tell you how confused I was. I even looked at the Japanese model this morning.
I did too.
And yeah, exactly.
I mean,
the Japanese model has this huge high sitting over Atlantic Canada, and the low is still down off of Charleston, and there's an incredibly tight gradient that is right in our backyard. So if for nothing else, you would expect that by late tomorrow and tomorrow evening, it will be blowing away here. And as far as the rain, I mean, look, Joe, yesterday we were thinking that the European was pulling back all of a sudden. The models were pulling back on the heavy duty rains. And now all of a sudden, last night's runs show, 3, 4, 5 inches of rain falling, especially over coastal New Jersey. It's one of these situations where, and I mentioned just a few nights ago, one of those occasions where none of the models seem to want to talk to each other. They seem to be set in their ways, and they have their own methodology of a solution to this, and they change in that methodology and that solution at 12 and 24-hour intervals. I don't know what to do and what to say, except that it will be, quote, unsettled tomorrow.
Right, and you know what? Ensembles are absolutely no help with this, because all they do is take all these members that are all over the place, and they give you, they just average it all out and split the difference. It's like, so what good does that do? It does no good to know that the average track is going to be, on a diagonal in the northeast when you got half the members pinned, close to the coast, and half the models, someplace else. So I mean, it's to me, it's useless. It's just absolute everything that we're dealing with here in terms of the tools that we use have achieved a certain degree of uselessness that I don't think I've ever experienced.
Yeah, just to give you another idea, last night's NAM Foos run, which gives you the information in a tabular or numerical form, said that LaGuardia would get maybe about 4/10 of an inch out of this. And I said, look how much they're pulling back. And now this morning's Foos run pushes it back up to, this is for LaGuardia now, more like an inch or more of precipitation. So the good Lord taketh away and the good Lord giveth back. You're looking for some consistency here, but there isn't any. I said yesterday that when we saw the first trickle of information this morning, the 12Z run, that we would have a more definitive idea as to what is going to happen, but instead it is turning into more of a confusion.
And by the way, Phone King, great point. I didn't even think of this until I started looking at it. Um, Tropical Storm Jerry, Joe, which was supposed to go up as a separate entity, is now being absorbed by the low that's off the southeast coast.
Yeah,
And take, I mean, I'm going to show you. We're going to go to the 6Z European here, and you'll see it. Um, so how much has that complicated it now? Because we were thinking, okay, it kind of moves up along 60 degrees west, and it's sort of parallel to the coastline. It's sort of parallel to the coastal low, and and it blocks it from going out to the east. But if you look here on the 6Z European, and I think you guys can see my cursor there. There's what's left of Jerry. I mean, it's just a weakening low, and then it's gone pretty much. It just gets totally absorbed by this coastal low. And here's so so this is how the European played out. And by the way, while it's on my mind, I also want to make this one other point with respect to we were talking about this with respect to why the model seemed to be behaving much more inconsistency, and we opined on the some of the data. It's not getting all of the data that it used to get. With respect, at least to the European is concerned. If you remember last year, they got rid of the operational run because they wanted to save needed the compute power and start focusing the compute power on the ensembles. And instead, the new operational run, they're using one of the members of either the ensembles or the European control. How much you want to bet that that's one of the reasons why we're seeing the European jumping back and forth the way it does?
yeah, that might be an excellent region. And when you talk about how how Jerry is getting absorbed, shades of Hurricane Grace back in 1991 with the Halloween storm. You
Yes.
remember that? That was an abnormally strong upper level system, and Hurricane Grace just got eaten up by that particular system. It was played out a different way in the movie, but in any case, yeah, here we are now, and it looks like Joe. You're right. It looks like the extra tropical low off of the southeast coast just grabs onto Jerry and funnels all of that tropical moisture into its circulation. And all of that is happening as the whole system is moving up along the eastern seaboard. And maybe some of that tropical moisture from Jerry is what is throwing off the numbers as far as the predicted precipitation amounts for this system for tomorrow into Monday.
Now take a look at the surface here. So you see Jerry gets absorbed. You see the coastal southern low just meanders off the Carolinas. You get this arm of rain that gets pushed all the way northward on Sunday, especially along the coast. But then the secondary low, and a number of the models have been showing this, the secondary low forms east of the southern part of the Delmarva Peninsula at roughly at about 37.7 and 72.4. And then, at least on yesterday's day runs, all of this was just shifting eastward and it was flat. Now it actually deepens the low down to a 997 low just southeast of Atlantic City, by Monday morning. I mean, if that's right, they're gonna, if that's correct, and I don't know that it is, and I don't know if anybody knows that it is, but if that were to be the case, I mean, you're talking 50 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts here with all of this. I just,
Right.
it's mind boggling. The whole thing to me is just mind boggling.
It might very well be simple. Put in more simple terms. Thursday and Friday, they were keeping both the coastal storm and Jerry separate, and now, beginning last night, maybe they're starting to try to coalesce both storms into something completely different that may be more significant, or dare I say, even more destructive. Will what else can you do?
Well,
We still have the GFS to look at. That's coming out, and we will not be on the air for that. That's coming out in about 45 minutes, and the European later. It'll be very interesting to see what those models cook up this afternoon with the new 12Z information for tomorrow and for Monday.
meanwhile, here's the upper air. And again, the upper air has changed once again. So I'm going to go back to yesterday. Let's go back to 12Z yesterday. So and in fact, let's go even further back. Let's go to back to Tuesday, because this is where we had first of all, this northern upper low on the European last Tuesday was never getting involved, and it was all this, this southern feature, and you see it here. Um, so there's that. I mean, this was, not coming anywhere up the coast. Then you go to, let me run back a little. Let's try 18Z Wednesday. So now we go to 18Z Wednesday. You got the upper low coming down, getting into eastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania. The southern feature gets completely picked up and lifted northward, and that's when we had one of those runs that took the low at it just southeast of Atlantic City. And you see how Jerry is a separate feature here. Went east of Bermuda and goodbye. All right, so there's that. Now let's go to yesterday. And the upper low yesterday went into New York State, just kind of stayed up near Syracuse, just sort of sat there, dropped into eastern Pennsylvania. We talked about how the trough axis was way too far east for a storm to get pinned on the coast, and then it goes southeast and out. And now we've gone back to this on the 6Z run, where the upper low in New York State energizes and drops down into west central Pennsylvania and into northern Virginia, for God's sake. The southern low, Joe, it gets totally is not involved. And with all this energy, with this upper low driving down, you get the secondary low develops and gets pinned underneath the upper low. I mean, it's amazing to me. Again, all this incredible confusion. Now,
Well, the computers, the models are juggling three balls. They're juggling Jerry. They're juggling that very intense upper load dropping down from the Great Lakes into New York State. And they're juggling the old southern system in the southeastern United States. And I guess what's happening is that they're trying to all determine, which is going to be the main player and how is it all going to work out. And these are supercomputers, but sometimes the situation is such that even the supercomputers get all mashed up, so to speak.
the GFS last night, the southern low gets up to almost to Chesapeake Bay. It's kind of south of the European. I mean, I'm assuming that, yeah, that looks like it's the southern low. Really doesn't do much with the secondary, but it's still, we have a tight pressure gradient, and I think we can honestly say it, regardless of how this is all going to turn out in terms of the actual weather, rain, how strong the winds, and so on. I think the one thing that is definitely going to happen is the fact that there's going to be moderate to major coastal flooding at high tides tomorrow and Monday for parts of the Long Island South Shore, uh, the North Shore, the Jersey Shore, down to Delaware, Delmarva Peninsula, Chesapeake Bay, and into Virginia. I think that part of it we know is going to happen. I'm I'm almost 100%
And
sure.
it really doesn't matter. We've been saying this for the last few days. We said this with Bill Goodman or whatever. It really doesn't matter that the moon is approaching last quarter phase. the neap tide phrase between the two astronomically highest times of the month, it doesn't really matter. When you have a storm of this intensity, you're still going to get significant coastal flooding. It's good in a way that it's not happening during the perigee, one of the perigee cycles, or one of the astronomically higher spring tide cycles. It's good that that's not happening because it would be even worse. But still, it's going to be bad enough over the next 2 or 3 days with that tight gradient, those winds, and again, the coastal flooding will be significant.
Well, we have the icon out to 51 hours. So let's see what this gives us any help. Uh, this is Sunday at 7 a.m. You see the low off the southeast coast. You see the isobar stretched northeastward to about 37 and 70-ish. Jerry is, just a little closed isobar down there, so it's just about gone. And there it is. I mean, here, this is kind of like the European. The secondary low develops out to the east and then pivots back westward to just east of the New Jersey coast. It brings the rain into Long Island. The icon would argue that the big rains are going to be in southern and southeastern New England and Long Island, and not so much for New Jersey. And then the Hudson Valley is kind of in a weird place here, Joe, because the moisture arm, which takes longer to come in on the icon, pivots back westward, and you've got this easterly flow. So there's probably going to be some uplift precip that you're going to have to work, consider coming into the mountains in upstate New York. So that makes that model's forecast equally tricky for inland spots as well as the coast. But it's got that European idea where the secondary forms and then gradually pivots back to the northwest because of what the upper low is doing.
Yeah, look at that. There's a broad area of very heavy rain that presumably, comes inland over eastern Long Island by about 2 o'clock in the morning on Monday, and then strengthens into a broader area, a band, if you will, of moderate to heavy rain, which then pivots from east to west, and actually appears just to the north of where I am in Putnam Valley, but looks like it's taking aim at Albany for early on Monday. Some of the models have been saying, "Oh no, this is going to be a system that's going to be bringing heavy-duty rains to coastal New Jersey and Long Island, southern New England, and keeping, for the most part, places in the upper Hudson Valley, like the Albany area, out of this for the most part." But the icon argues against that. The icon now is arguing, "Hey, this is going to be swinging a lot of heavy-duty rain in from eastern Long Island, southern New England, northwest up into the Hudson Valley during the day on Monday."
All right, so I went back to the European because I think we're at a point now that we could just we can look at what the specific model changes are or were. And we were kidding about this last night that by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we were talking about basically 1 to 2 tenths of rain and maybe a little bit more over parts of eastern Long Island. I mean, the numbers were just so hilarious in terms of going from 5 inches down to, nothing for the most part. So I'll just roll this back to give a better time frame for the whole event. So this was the day run. This was the 18Z run yesterday we showed on the air, which gave total precip amounts of 1/10 of an inch to Poughkeepsie, 3/10 to Yonkers, 2/10, 3/10 to New York City, 4/10 Long Branch, 5/10 Toms River, 8/10 in Brentwood, and more significant rains for southeastern New England and eastern Long Island. All right, that was the 18Z run from yesterday. Now let's go to the 6Z run. Well, actually, I want to go to the 0Z run because that also made some changes. So the 0Z run, Brentwood went from 8/10 of an inch, Joe, to almost 4.5. Okay. New York City went from what, 1/10 or two to 3.2. Poughkeepsie went from like 1/10 to 2.2. Now that was the 0Z run. Now let's look at the 6Z. The 6Z run um, went to now the bullseye is on the Jersey Shore, 5.3 at Tom's River, 2.5 at Brentwood, 2.2 for New York City, 2.2 for Yonkers, and 1.3 for Poughkeepsie. I mean, it's just it's horrible. It's just horrible to try to use these tools. But look, I think the only way you could really do this in terms of a forecast is kind of broad brush it to where, and that's sort of what I did today, where I just kind of said, just paint for eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England. I just basically said, okay, probably an inch or two. Maybe some places are going to wind up with a bit more, or maybe more than just a bit more, and some places may wind up with a bit less, or perhaps more than just a bit less, and just left it at that. I mean, I can't be. I'm not that good to be able to look at this and what's going on, and put a 5 inch bullseye that one run is at Tom's River and the other run it's at Iceland. So that's kind of how I'm approaching all this.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. The only thing I'm happy about is that my original forecast for the Hudson Valley was for 1.5 to 2 inches, and it still looks like that's going to be a good precipitation total as of right now. It didn't go overboard with saying possibly as much as 3 to 5 inches for any part of the Hudson Valley, and I didn't after yesterday's runs or last evening's runs. I didn't say, oh well, maybe we can lower it from an inch and a half to 2 inches. I pretty much have held with the 1.5 to 2. Maybe that'll end up being correct, if for nothing else. That some places, either to the north or the south of me, will get bombed with 3 to 5 or 4 to 6 inches. I don't know. Like I said, it'll be interesting to see what the GFS and European cook up in a matter of the next few hours.
The wind forecast, and this is again off the 6Z, which went aggressive. Instead of gusts in the low 40s, now we're looking at gusts in the mid 50s beginning Sunday night and lasting into Monday afternoon. I would point out that, like, right along the New Jersey shore, on the barrier of the New Jersey shore, the wind gusts are in the 60 to 70 mile an hour range. Um, Wind gusts even to Yonkers, Joe, as high as 52. New York City at 44. Brentwood at 50. South Shore of Long Island in the low and mid 60s. The east end of Long Island at 70 miles an hour or higher. Same for parts of the North Fork. And also with the southeastern New England, you're looking at ocean offshore winds in the 60 plus range. Southeast New England in the 50 plus, and 30 to 40 mile an hour gusts across Connecticut, Rhode Island, 30 mile an hour gusts in the Hudson Valley north of Route 84 for the most part. I don't know. I just basically said along the immediate coast, you're going to have gusts to 40 to 50, maybe a few places a little higher. Inland gusts will be lower. I mean, I hate, I hate's not the right word. I dislike, um, not being able to be more specific this close to an event.
Right. And it looks like to me that the time frame that we're looking at for the worst of this, and this is taking into account all the models overall, would be tomorrow night into early on Monday. Tomorrow may not be such a bad day in terms of rain and wind. We'll be getting, occasional rain or intermittent rain, some gusty breezes, but I think the lion's share or the heaviest amounts will be coming our way as many of us go to bed tomorrow night and maybe lingering on into the early part of the day on Monday.
Yeah, just looking at the icon because it's out to 69 hours, and that's almost daybreak on Tuesday, and the low is southeast. The secondary low is southeast of Montauk. So you've got a rather aggressive European model doing what it's doing. The probably the best approach with all of this is just sort of split the difference between all of them and roll the dice and see what happens, and then you're just going to have to adjust going forward. Harold Olson brought up something I had completely forgot about, and that was the Boxing Day storm um, back in 2010
2010.
when the day before, the models, and I remember this, the models completely lost it and on one run. And then it just suddenly came back on the next one. And that was one of the stranger. It actually changed the way, as I recall, it actually changed the way that storm evolved because it was focusing on some shortwave in the Gulf of Mexico that was going to go off the southeast coast, and it sort of lost that. And then it all turned out to be the northern feature anyway, that you wound up getting all the development out of it. In some sense, this is not that dissimilar.
Yeah, I remember that storm well. I remember on Christmas Day of 2010 staring out the window at what looked to be like wet snowflakes and saying to myself, what is this? This is not, doesn't look like it's going to do much of anything. And then all of a sudden, out of seemingly nowhere, it just revved up. And I mean, we had up here, Joe, where I lived, we had like near blizzard conditions for quite a few hours. I think we ended up with like 12 or 15 inches of snow here. That that was not in the cards, so to speak. For and if you remember also, days in advance leading up to that particular event, it didn't look like it was going to be much of anything. We're going to get a little snow on Christmas Day. Yeah, that was a big surprise.
Joseph Carr, thank you for the generous hit of the tip jar. Very much appreciated. Actually, two hits of the tip jar.
Wow.
And I think there was somebody else a little earlier that posted that hit. I'll just make sure I got all of them. I really want to make sure I always say thank you. Yeah, so Kenneth at the beginning of the show, so that's Kenneth Busey hitting the tip jar, and Joseph Carr with the double hit. Thank you so much for hitting the super chat tip jar. All right,
So I guess,
so
Joe, we are gonna have a show tomorrow at 11 a.m.
yes, I was counting. That was the other thing because I said that if I brought up the fact that if it turns out to be it was going to turn out to be a big nothing, that we just would cancel the show, and that's not to say it still could turn out that way, although it just
Yeah.
seems a little less likely at this point. But yes, so that's the schedule. So tomorrow, folks, we're gonna. By the way, my coffee this morning is caramel pecan. And for those of you who say pecan, okay, or pecan, you pee in a can, okay? Okay, it's pronounced pecan, okay. So there you go. Or yeah, you don't want to make a very long vowel e sound when you say pecan. Yes, so we are going to have two shows tomorrow. So we will be on again for 30 minutes at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, just like today. And then we will be back tomorrow night with our main show, which will be longer at 7:35. So this way you can get your weather hit in the morning, your weather fix in the morning, watch the Giants and Jets lose in the afternoon.
No,
And well,
no,
the Giants already won. I'm sorry. So you can
no.
watch the
The
Jets lose in the afternoon.
No,
Uh,
no, you don't watch the Jets lose in the afternoon either because
You
the
watch
Jets
them
are in
Monday.
London. They're in London, so
Oh, okay.
the
You
game will
want,
be pretty much game will be pretty much over or go ending. So the Jets will be losing. They're
okay,
six
so
and
they would have
one.
already lost.
Yeah.
I stand corrected. Frank Karajit, thank you for hitting the tip jar this morning, and Howard A, thank you so much for hitting the tip jar. Did we get 100 likes?
We got 86 on my counting here.
86. All right. Well, normally I would say let's stretch it to see if we can get 100 likes. If you like the show, folks, hit the like button. The sooner you get us to 100, the sooner we'll go away. Uh, so there you have it. Um, yeah. So we're going to do those two shows tomorrow. I hope to God that the models get some sense of uniformity here for this event. So my stomach cannot feel as tight as it does right now. There we go. Perfect.
102, Joe. Fourth
Perfect.
consecutive day. Fourth consecutive day. We've gotten over 100 likes. So
And
thank
it
you.
will be the fourth consecutive. We also got, I think, the last 3 days in a row with over 1,000 views on our show overall. which is good and they're quality views because a lot of people will watch more than just 30 seconds of us. I mean, they'll
Right.
they'll they'll stay for a while. All right, 30 minutes is what I said. This is going to be 30 minutes. So we'll be back here tomorrow, 11 a.m., and then again tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So enjoy the rest of your day and keep your fingers crossed on this. Bye bye.
Good night, folks.